Welcome back to Dishing with Patricia. Can you believe it? It's my 11th episode. I'm excited. I hope you guys are as excited as I am with my recipes, our current events. I don't want to keep you any further. I want to introduce you to my guest. He's phenomenal. His name is John Chen. John is the executive director of the Chinatown Development Corporation. John, welcome to Dishing with Patricia.
Well, thank you so much for having me and inviting me to your kitchen today.
Thank you so much. So not only are we going to talk about what's going on in Chinatown, where it's going for the future of Philadelphia, but your people. I want to hear all about you, your family, and let's get started. Tell me a little bit about Philadelphia Chinatown Development Corporation. What exactly is it? I know it's a 501c3, so tell me about it.
Yeah, that's right, Patricia. We are a nonprofit organization. Like many organizations who are nonprofit in the city of Philadelphia, it started out just as a group of residents coming together to address concerns of the Chinatown neighborhood. And that's what we did. And we were founded 55 years ago in 1966. Our mission is very simple, but the problem is very complicated. Our mission is to protect, preserve, and promote Chinatown. As you know, Chinatown is a business district, but it's also a neighborhood and a residence for thousands of people living in the community. So all of our work is focused on ensuring that the services that are provided by government meets and fills the gaps of the residents' needs. So in addition to being a business district, we also are a community with many low-income families and residents.
Correct. Tell me, what exactly is the footprint of Chinatown?
Well, Chinatown is actually blocked in by several sides. We have the convention center to our west, and that's on 12th Street.
Yes.
On the east, we have the tourist section of Independence Mall in the Liberty Bell area.
Yes.
And to the south, we have Market Street and the Fashion District. So,
what about going north? How far north are you?
We go all the way up to Spring Garden. And in fact, today, we have many families who are Chinese immigrants living beyond Spring Garden Street. But for many, many years, the one reason we were founded was because of the government's proposal to put the Vine Street Expressway through our community. And that used to be this border that mentally was a mental block for people to jump over and expand our community northward.
That happened in Black communities as well. They would put expressways through the community, and it would separate the community. One part of the community could have been thriving, but then the other side no longer thrives because you've put an expressway through the middle of it. How about gentrification? How is that affecting your community?
Gentrification has always been an issue for our community. It has caused displacement of low-income families that can no longer afford to live in Chinatown. And in recent times, it's gotten worse. And that's why our nonprofit, in addition to filling the gaps and the needs, we also build and develop affordable housing so low-income families can remain in Chinatown.
So tell me about that. What's your latest project?
Our latest project is we're building two separate projects. One is a rental housing project. We're going to build 6 new affordable rental apartments right in the heart of Chinatown. And the second project is actually a home ownership project. Not only do we want low-income families to remain in the community, but we want to be able to give them the opportunity to invest and buy a home, because that's one of the ways that families can build up equity and build wealth. And this housing development is actually on the north side of Chinatown, a little bit north of Spring Garden.
Okay. I know you have a project that you guys finished a year or so, or 2 years, a couple of years ago, that is a high rise or a medium rise, as it would be called. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's called the Crane Chinatown Community Center project. It's the pride and joy of our organization. Chinatown was one of those minority neighborhoods of color that didn't have a city-owned and operated recreation center for the longest time. So our organizational board members wanted to make sure that our community, our youth, and our senior citizens had a place to go to for programming. And sitting in the middle of this project There's a large recreation center and community center where we run many of our programs, both from a social need standpoint, but also from a cultural and arts standpoint.
Tell us some of the programs that they can find at the rec center.
Well, we opened at a terrible time. We opened in October of 2019, right before the pandemic.
Okay.
So for almost all of 2020, we were closed. But in 2021, we were finding ways like everybody else to figure out how to recover. So today, we have Tai Chi. I know you know what that is.
Yes.
We have English as a second language classes, very well attended. We have residents, seniors, and even workers coming to classes. And we just started yoga. But more importantly, we actually have a program that provides a pathway for high school students to post-secondary education and occupational training.
Do you have to be a member of the Chinese community to be able to come to the rec center?
You know what? The wonderful thing is so far all these programs are free because we want to make sure that money is not a barrier to getting services.
Yes.
And you do not have to be from the Chinatown community.
So one of the projects that you're going to do is going to be north of Spring Garden. Are there any restrictions that stops you from doing other developments within Chinatown, except, that immediate footprint? Where can you build other additional high rises or mid rises within your community that doesn't take it outside of the, that little square area that's right in the center?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that prevents us. In fact, we're welcome to. So our first project outside of Spring Garden Street, we reached out to St. Paul's Baptist Church over at 10th and Wallace and worked with them just to communicate and understand what their needs are around housing. And as you know, that area, West Popular, is gentrifying significantly.
Yes.
Okay, so they really welcome the opportunity for affordable housing. So the project we finished about 2 years ago, it's a mixed community that lives in our apartments. We have Asian, Hispanic, African American. We have veterans of the U.S. Armed Forces. So it's a pretty mixed population. That's what we want.
We understand that the crane opened in December of 2019. COVID came along shortly thereafter. Politics, being what it is, was claiming that China was the cause of COVID-19. And we know that there were issues that people were having with Chinese and Asian citizens of the U.S. Did any of that happen in your community?
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. Never in my lifetime would I have thought that there was be this amount of animosity and bias towards Asian Americans, specifically Chinese Americans in Chinatown. It hit our residents hard. Physical attacks, verbal attacks. I was the recipient of a couple of verbal insults, and it's been a horrible time. And, our organization saw this way before the government shut down.
Yes.
And we were out there advocating for law enforcement to do something.
Yes.
We were there at the Human Relations Commission, the police department, U.S. Department of Justice, anyone who had an association with law enforcement. We wanted them to know that this problem was serious and that they needed to take it seriously and actually inventory all these different incidents. Because as you read the news, it's not just here in Philadelphia, nationwide.
Correct.
People gave the green light for people to be racist.
Exactly.
And that's the huge problem. We know racism exists.
Yes.
But they were given the green light to come out and just attack people.
So how is it going now? Has the attacks in your community, have they diminished as time gone on?
They've diminished, but the level of attacks and crime against Asians is still higher than what it was before the pandemic.
I'm really sorry to hear that. It's at this point in time, we should be further along one of my philosophies, I'm not quoting myself, but we are our brother's keeper. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And that's how I try to live my life. The mission, Philadelphia Chinatown Development Corporation. Tell us about your mission and how is it helping your community today? Give me some examples. I was walking down the street one day, and this is before I asked you to come on, and I passed the Crane building, and I saw a number of people lined up, and they had little grocery carts and things of that nature. So tell me about that.
Yeah, our mission expanded during the pandemic. Prior to that, we provided social services, helping people with financial challenges and helping them to get food on the table. But during the pandemic, what we had known as our nonprofit business model completely changed. The demand for help just shot up. And what we found ourselves doing is that we identified all the different needs. Mental wellness was a big issue. Financial loss, people were out of work, small business were closed down, was an issue. But the most basic need, food sustainability, the people in our community could not put food on the table. So we created a food distribution program during this time period. It still goes on today, and one day a week on Fridays, and this is open to anybody who needs food. They come and they can get fresh foods.
Yes. It's important that you give people fresh food. You need fresh vegetables. You know, one of the philosophies of Dishing with Patricia is food is medicine. And food is important to me because my mother, I grew up a large family, but food was important. And my mother gave me that foundation. And just to hear how people cannot afford, nor do they have access to healthy foods. That shouldn't be so. So I'm happy to know that you're giving back to your community. And it gives people a sense of pride that this is my community is helping me. So do you have a website for your 501c3 that people can reach out, they can learn about the company itself, how they can donate? They can will they have access to a calendar to find out the events that's going on? Can you share that with me?
Yeah, absolutely. We do have a website, and it's www.chinatown-pcdc.org.
Yes.
And we have a wealth of information about what we do, our programs, as well as if people want to support the work that we do.
Yes.
There's a donation button right there in the top corner of the website. And you can learn a lot about our program. And if you have families who need help, you can direct them towards to our organization through the website.
That's one. How did you get involved in this?
You know, I was born and raised in Chinatown. I sort of lived the immigrant dream, right? The American dream. That's why my grandparents and my parents came here, is to realize the American dream. So I was able to attend college, graduate, and worked in the finance world.
Yes.
And then this priest comes along who became the assistant pastor of the Holy Redeemer. I am also Catholic.
Yes. And
through him, he brought me in to do volunteer work. And I really enjoyed what I was doing for the church. And he was on the board of our organization that I work for now. And he thought a natural transition for me would be join this organization. And that was 21 years ago. So I've never looked back. I love what I do because at the end of the day, I feel like if I can help one person that day, then my job will have been done.
That's good. Are your parents still living, and are they in Chinatown?
Yeah, my mom is still with us.
Great.
And I'll tell you a funny story. So my grandfather first arrived in this country and landed in New York's Chinatown. And my father was born in 1929 in New York City.
Okay.
And that was during the Great Depression. So my grandfather decided to take the entire family back home to where his hometown is in Taishan, China. So my dad was an infant when he arrived in China,
Yes.
and in his 30s, because of the war going on in China, he escaped to Hong Kong and is trying to find his way back to America. So here you have an American-born citizen that did not speak English coming back to the country. So yeah, we've been here 3 generations.
That's wonderful. That's a good thing. I mean, your sense of community and your sense of culture, that's important. Um, I welcome that. I see you have some teas in front of you. You want to tell me about this teas that you have in front of you? What this all about?
Yeah, sure. So as a young teenager, young adult, I drank a little bit too much soda, right? But these days, I'm more in tune with health
Yes.
and healthy eating. So I brought 3 types of teas to talk about today.
Okay.
This one is a oolong tea. It's what you would call a black tea.
Yes.
Okay. So oolong tea is in Chinese philosophy. There's yin and yang.
Yes.
Right. So there's hot and cold.
Yes.
So oolong is a tea that warms your body.
Okay.
Okay. And it's good for you during cool weather, like now.
Yes.
Okay. And then here I have, everybody has heard of jasmine tea.
Yes.
Jasmine is a green tea. Okay. And it's more of a cooling tea. Okay. And it's good for the warm weather. So
Where can we find these teas?
you can find them in any grocery store in Chinatown.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a big grocery store, Chengmei,
Yes.
right on the 1000 block of Ray Street, that sells all sorts of teas, more than you could ever imagine a store can sell.
Right.
Yeah. And then finally, I have these little packets that's instant tea powdered. This is Korean ginseng. Okay. So Korean ginseng is for the cool weather. It warms your body. And then believe it or not, the largest producer of ginseng comes from Wisconsin.
Yeah, really?
American ginseng is cool. So you can drink that in the warm weather, summertime.
Right.
So all our foods are about cool and hot. And you should never eat too much of one food because you want to always stay in balance. So I do that through tea.
Well, I actually spent a month in China. I had friends that lived in Shanghai. So I went to Shanghai, took the train to Beijing. I went to Hangzhou, Mogenchen. I went to Hong Kong. But what I found was when I was in China, when you say the yin and the yang, I found that there was no gray area in China. And that actually, it changed my life after my trip from China, because there was balance. There was no gray. It's yes or no. It's not maybe. And my sense of purpose, I enjoyed it. But one of the things I found in China was when we go to Chinese restaurants here in the U.S., we always have rice. You had to ask for rice. When I was in China, you did. You thought, okay, they're serving us. Where is the rice? And that wasn't so. My guest, the host, told me that if you want some rice, you ask for rice, that they want you to fill up on all the other things, and then rice is secondary. So what changed that?
I think what changed that is America's desire for meat and potatoes. You got to have the starch
Okay.
in America. But yeah, that's very true. I mean, Chinese dishes are all diced foods with
Yes.
all sorts of vegetables. I mean, that's where you're going to get your
Right.
nourishment,
Right.
Not so much the rice.
No, I agree, because as I said, we went, it was like, well, where is the rice? And I've often tell folks that when I'm cooking rice and I'm having things, I said, no. And they said, no, that's not true. Every time I go, I said, no, that's American Chinese. That's not if you're actually in the country. Is there something that you want us to know about Chinatown that we don't know? That you feel that is special about your community? And why it should continue to thrive, and how we can help in the process of moving it forward?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. You know, Chinatown was founded in 1870, so we've been around 151 years now.
Beautiful.
And it was founded in a neighborhood that nobody wanted to live in. You know, in the 60s, it was called Skid Row. There were bars on every corner. I grew up with all those bars, but to me, this was my community, this was my home. I didn't know any better.
Yes.
But I think Chinatown is a unique draw. It's a hub for cultural celebration. And many Asians, not just Chinese, come to Chinatown to embrace and celebrate the culture. Where else in Philadelphia or the greater five-county region can you see just a plethora of Asian foods and products, right?
Right.
And people. So the uniqueness that this neighborhood offers Asian American people, but the people in general in the city, is that there's a history here of struggle because Chinese Americans, like many people of color, are struggling.
Yes.
With equity, right?
Yes.
There's a thriving economy. So many immigrants that don't speak English well, it's difficult for them to find jobs in mainstream America.
Yes.
So the stores and the businesses that open up are really important employment centers for immigrants with limited English proficiency. So there's a value here. There's a huge economy. There's culture. So these are things that we all want to preserve, regardless of what neighborhood. You know, there's an Italian market. There's so much history in Philadelphia, and Chinatown's part of that history. So, and there's a way of life for people here who are first and second generation, who are trying to fit in with this melting pot or salad bowl, whatever you want to call America, right? Right. And in order for us to do that, we have to maintain also affordability. Yes. So Chinatown has different people with all different levels of income, but the most vulnerable are the low-income families. Yes. So our mission for the next immediate future really is to build more affordable housing, to make sure that living in Chinatown is affordable, to make sure that there's no government projects or other projects that infringe upon Chinatown's right to grow and expand. Exactly.
So next year, Chinese New Year, I think this is the year of the tiger or something.
Tiger, yeah.
Yes. So will you guys be able to have a large celebration? And what is the significance of the year of the tiger?
Oh my gosh, you put me on the spot.
I'm sorry.
The tiger clearly is an animal that has courage.
Yes.
You know? And I think we're hoping that the tiger brings us out of this pandemic.
Yep.
Running, because we really need it. And yes, our hope is that we will have our typical Chinese New Year 10-course banquet celebration.
Yes.
In 2022. And our hope is that we get through this winter much, much better. If that happens, Chinatown will be doing a lot of celebrating. In February.
I'm sure. My hope and my prayer is I want us all to live, and I want us to prosper, and to be able to feed our families, and to have housing. So those are some of the major things that you've addressed with me today. But part of my Dishing with Patricia is about food. So I hope you're going to stay with me. I'm going to fix something that I've come up with, and I'm hoping you can assist me if you could stay for a minute.
I've never said no to food, and my parents owned a restaurant in Chinatown for many years, so I dabbled in the kitchen, and I look forward to it.
Okay, so give us a few moments, and we'll be back. Welcome back. John Chen and I are going to cook up a couple of things for you. So John, first, I want to talk about what we've been drinking. Yeah. This is pomegranate ginger water. Here's to our health. Pomegranate are high in antioxidants. Also, pomegranates are good for men that have prostate cancer. So we should all be aware that Cancer Awareness Month just was in October, but we still want to be careful about the foods and the drinks and the beverages that we put in our body. So I want you to be aware of that. So also, this recipe can be found on classyandessentialnutrition.com. But John, while I'm gathering all of this together, this is some vegetable dumplings that I did. So I hope that that you would try one for me.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
here's right there.
Thank you.
And once you try one of those, I want to let me give you want to just
Yeah.
take one and dip one. We just
Sure.
made our own little sauce. We didn't have a lot of. We couldn't decide what we wanted to make as a dipping sauce.
Mm.
Now
Very good.
this recipe can also be found on classyandessentialnutrition.com. So what we're going to do is, I'm sorry I caught John right in the middle, but John, here's a bowl. I'm going to hand you some shiitake mushrooms here. So just put some shiitake mushrooms inside. A couple more. That's good. Okay. And then I want you to add some soy sauce.
All right.
There you go.
All of it?
Yep.
All right.
Yep. This is just going to marinate the shiitake mushrooms. And that is rice wine vinegar. And this is fresh garlic. Just put a little half of this. That's tahini.
All right.
Half of that will do. I'm sorry. I think I should have. Here, get something so you can wipe your hands if you need.
All right.
Here's some salt. Only half.
Yeah.
Yep, I take the salt back.
Mhm.
And this is avocado oil. Just good.
Avocado.
Avocado oil. Yes, it is.
How much of that?
Yep.
All of
But
it?
yes, all of that. Yes,
All right.
please. And a little bit of your ginger, not all of it,
All right,
please.
just a little bit.
So while John is doing that, I'm going to turn this burner on. And while the mushrooms are marinating, and we're going to get started. So let's turn this up a little bit. Always when you're cooking and you're going to saute some vegetables or anything that you're going to cook with, always make sure the oil is hot. Don't put cold food into a cold pan. You want the cooking process to start immediately. So always have a start with your oil being warm. So while that's warming up, what do you think about the dumplings?
They're really delicious, and not oily at all.
No.
But sometimes they can be.
Well, they were to be fried. We decided to bake ours.
All right.
And I have a olive oil spritzer. So I often just spritz. And then also line my cookie sheets with a silicone pad, which helps in the crispiness of whatever you're baking. If you're baking fish or if you're baking cookies, even your bottom part of your cookies will come out with a nice crunchy, crispy taste. But while we're waiting on this, I'm going to start with the cabbage.
I'm going to have another dumpling.
You go right ahead. I've kept you here longer than I had anticipated, so please do. Let's turn this up so it can keep going. And the dish that we're having right now is sesame ginger forbidden rice bowl. And it's got fresh ginger. You're going to have black rice. I love black rice. I tell people all the time, get rid of that white rice. You want rice of color. You want brown rice. You want black rice, wild rice. The fiber, the nutrition that comes along with having rices that are different colors is second to none. So get rid of the white rice. And I baked my rice. I didn't do it on top of the
You
stove.
bake it in water?
Yeah, put it in the oven. Like if you have a casserole dish or just a pan, something that covers, of course. Normal 2-to-1 ratio.
Mm-hmm.
Your salt, or I tend to use a bouillon I tend to use a bouillon when I'm cooking. When I'm doing rice, or if I'm doing a grain. always put a vegetable bouillon, and some people, they may do a chicken, but always put a bouillon in your foods when you're cooking it. It's more flavorful. And when you're cooking, you want to add flavor as you want to go on. You want to add depth into it. I'm sorry, this should be going a little faster than what it is. I'll turn it up. There we go. It won't take long. This is a really quick dish, but it's nutritious. You're going to have cabbage, you're going to have carrots, you're going to have bean sprouts, bok choy. All of these things you can find at our local markets, but you can also, why don't you take a trip down to Chinatown and go to that Chinese market. I mentioned to you that I went to China. It's been about 11 years ago, but now you have your apps in your phone that will actually help you communicate when you're in another country. But Bruce, my husband, went into that store and bought me this device that if I spoke what I wanted, it would repeat it in Chinese. So when I was in China, I was able to communicate with my taxi driver, because one of the also things I found in China, you can say whatever you want to say, they're not going to understand you. It's not, you could go like this up the street and all these types of things. It's not going to work.
Yeah, it's amazing what the phones can do in these devices.
Yeah, yes. So while we're waiting on this, tell me, you have a newsletter. What's that all about? Tell me about that.
Yeah. So our nonprofit has a monthly newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, believe it or not, we continue to print the newsletter as well.
Okay.
But it's also online and on social media.
Right.
But the printing is important because, we serve a significant residential population in Chinatown.
Right.
And not everybody is on the phone or on the computer.
Right.
And our newsletter is really their connection to our organization, what we're doing, but also the services that we're providing. So for instance, we're now in November. Mm-hmm. The winter season's coming.
Right.
And one of the programs that we offer is the LIHEAP program. It's a heating subsidy program for low-income families.
Right.
And if you qualify based on your income, we will help you apply. And you can get up to $600 for your family for the heating season to help reduce your overall heating costs.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's in your newsletter?
That is in our newsletter, and we have all sorts of really helpful, informative information.
And your newsletter comes out how often again?
It's once a month.
Once a month. Now, for those that want to get online, is the newsletter on the website?
There is a newsletter on the website.
Yes.
But they can also reach us at info@chinatown-pcdc.org.
Okay.
And let us know they want to be added.
Wonderful. So do you use a local printer to print this newsletter?
We partner with our corporate partner, if it's okay to mention them.
That's fine. That's fine.
Health Partners Plan actually contributes to printing to our newsletter. And
really?
Not only is the newsletter in English, but it's bilingual in Chinese as well.
Wow. So you don't necessarily have to donate monies. You can also donate in some type of partnership, some type of bartering or something like that?
Absolutely. We're always in need of something. Nonprofits, all our funds come from donations and grants from corporations and foundations.
Right.
So any in-kind contributions are really appreciated.
Okay.
So, during the pandemic last year, we actually had some corporations donate masks and gloves to us. And
that's wonderful.
Sanitizers, yeah.
That's wonderful. So, typically, I try to put my things in the oven as often as I can because it allows me to just move around the house and I'm not standing here while I'm watching. So I did this earlier, but I put everything, I love this one pan thing. So I get a cookie sheet and I put everything in a row and it just cooks. 25 minutes, I come back and I'm ready. Everything is, instead of me standing here, doing like this.
Yeah.
And I can keep moving. Tell the family to come on in. But one of the things when you're cooking like this, you can engage with your family. So I'm just going to, don't overcook your vegetables. Don't overcook your vegetables. Those days of keeping everything on the stove for 4 and 5 hours, that's old fashioned. Nothing. All your vegetables should be able to cook within 25, 30 minutes. It's just the cooking, how you do it.
Smells good.
Thank you. That makes a difference.
I'll tell you a funny story.
Yes.
As you know, we do a food distribution.
Yes.
And most times it's fresh foods.
Right.
But a couple times we got canned vegetables.
Right.
And the grandmoms and grandpops looked at the cans. It was canned corn and something else.
Right.
They asked us, what do they do with that?
Right.
They're used to fresh vegetables and fresh food.
Yeah, that's right. Right.
So,
what can you do with it?
Yeah.
I mean, so this is bok choy. All markets now, but take a trip to Chinatown and get some fresh bok choy. And if you're outside of Chinatown, there's a Chinese market that's on Spring Garden Street, right?
Yeah, it's called Spring Garden Food Market.
Yes. As a matter of fact, that's where I got the shiitake mushrooms.
Okay.
Yeah. So these will only take a few minutes. It's quick. And I'm just going to give this to you. So this is how it's going to look once it's done. Look at the bok choy. Here's the cabbage. Here's the black rice. Here's the shiitake mushrooms, the carrots. So this has already been made. It's not quite as hot as I would like it, but while you just taste that, I'll finish this off and we can just keep it moving. But if you want, we can give you some of this one.
Since I marinated the mushrooms, I'm going to try that.
Try that.
First.
Yes.
Very flavorful.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll turn this off. And I don't like to cook my things. I like to still have crunch. So this is easy. So then I would put my mushrooms in here. And then I will put them on last. And then all this essence that you were putting in there, it's now in the mushrooms, and it's going to pour over this right here. So all of the tahini, the white wine vinegar, the ginger, all of that is going to be in here. And it's going to make a difference. It's going to just bring up that rice and bring up everything else.
Bean sprouts are crunchy.
Yeah.
Growing up, I think we're spoiled by the variety of vegetables
yes.
in the Asian market these days.
Yes.
Growing up, you had bok choy, Chinese broccoli, and a green vegetable called choy sum. But today, there's such a huge variety.
Yes. I love Chinese mustard greens.
Oh, yeah. Have you ever tried them pickled?
No.
They're good both ways, yeah.
Also, I love snow pea leaves.
They are the best.
Yes, very tender, and it only takes 5-10 minutes to cook these things. It's not that half hour, 45 minutes to cook greens. As I said to you earlier, don't overcook your vegetables.
With the snow pea leaves, I like to throw a lot of garlic.
Yes, of course. That's the only way to have those, right? Yeah, with garlic. So I'm going to pour this over this dish. And this was easy. Really easy. So this goes over this. This one was a hot one. May not be as pretty as the other. I just wanted you all to see. And I'm going to take a little bit of all of this out of here, John, so I can let you taste it. Well, it's really... So this one won't be as pretty as the one that John had, but this will give him a little bit of everything so he can taste it while it's nice and hot. You want to try that? That's nice and warm.
It smells so good.
But look how easy that, look how the presentation, food starts, it's a visual. When you're eating food, it should look good, it should taste good, but it's always at the eye. The moment you see your food, you've already started digesting it. What do you think about that?
Very good. It's the first time I've had black rice.
Really?
I'm going to buy it.
The first time you ever had black rice?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm glad I introduced you to something new. But black rice, you can purchase black rice in Asian markets, but you could also at Whole Foods. Most specialty stores now carry a different variety of rice. Also be cognizant of where you buy your rice from. It's important because of the pesticides and things that are going on in our world today. But there's one last recipe that you can find on my website that was part of my things today is my ginger molasses cookies. They're really good. This time of year, you want something that's has a little spice to it. And I think that's important. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention our vegetables that we have and some of the fruits that are common right now in the market. When you go to the market, I want you to shop in the outer peripheral of the market. Start at the vegetable section. Go down to where there's breads and there's flours and things. Don't buy white flour. Buy other flours. When they started saying that we needed to incorporate more grains into our diet, we immediately just thought of wheat. There's quinoa. There's any plethora of different grains that we can have. But experiment. Make your recipes your own. Nothing is in stone. Who knows if you made a mistake? Only you know. Nobody knows. John, thank you for coming. I've learned a lot today. It gives me hope that we can change. We can change what's going on if we just welcome our different cultures, welcome people that are different from us. And I want to thank you for coming on my show today.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. And you know what? It starts with conversations around food. So this was perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you as my guest, my audience. Until next time on Dishing with Patricia. Bye.